Hello and welcome to the Change the Game, Style Again podcast. This is episode 1, and in this episode we're going to cover an intro into the podcast. I want to give you an update on my knee injury, and then I'm going to tell you about my time at Red Bull Racing this week. So first of all, welcome back. It's been a while. So I actually run 2 podcasts. I run this podcast, which is my weekly podcast, and then I run a monthly podcast called Coach's Corner, which is for personal trainers trying to set themselves up in the fitness industry. Now, the Coach's Corner podcast has been going great. I've had some really good feedback, and I've been very consistent with that podcast. However, this one has been a bit on and off, and I'll tell you why. So, I started it in 2021, got loads of momentum, was absolutely loving it, doing it. I got loads of special guests on, which was great. I was getting some really good feedback. But I got injured. From mid-April. And if you follow me on my Instagram, you'd have seen what kind of happened. My knee kept swelling up, and it didn't hurt, but I just couldn't physically bend it. And if I had done anything repetitive, like walking, running, cycling, my knee would just get flooded full of fluid. I couldn't bend it, and I didn't know what was going on. I was seeing all sorts of people for help, trying to diagnose what this injury was, and we just couldn't figure it out. And it's like, is it something to do with my quad tendons? And then my hamstring started playing up. I was like, well, maybe it's something to do with my hamstring that's then winding my knee up. And then eventually I ended up tearing my hamstring because I was trying to figure out what it was. And there was just all sorts of nonsense going on around my knee. And then I ended up tearing my hamstring. After I recovered from that, it kept swelling up again. So I finally went through my Vitality insurance, went to the Sharon Clinic in Oxford Circus, which is a private knee and back specialist place. Saw one of the best knee surgeons in the UK. He put me through an MRI, and it was quite funny actually. He was just like, whilst he was looking at the MRI, I was like, Derek, what have you done in your life? And he looked at the MRI scan. He goes, come and look at the back of your knee. It is just broken and crumbling away. And basically, I've had a lot of impact through my right knee, through being in the army, through parachuting, but mostly through playing rugby. I just remember hitting the ground really hard this time in rugby. My back end of one of my last games, and my knee was pretty messed up from it, but I thought it'd be okay. And what I've essentially done is just broke the back of my kneecap. So it was all like crumbling away. There was loose bits within my cartilage, and then whenever I pushed it and done anything repetitive like cycling, the broken bone bits were just hitting either side of my kneecap and then making it flare up, and the fluid that was flooding my knee was there to protect my knee, and it's all pulling back by my hamstring, and then that's why I ended up tearing my hamstring. I was like, well, that makes sense. And the only good thing the surgeon said for me was, you would have never figured this out by yourself, and that kind of gave me a bit of relief, because like as a personal trainer especially, you're trying to diagnose kind of injuries and trying to think about how to fix them, and I just couldn't get to the bottom of it. And he was like, you would never figure this out. So that was the only bit of good news from it. But what it did mean is I required surgery. So I've had surgery now. I'm on the back end of the rehab side, which I'll talk about in a sec. And yeah, so that's why I've been away, because talking on my other podcast about personal trainers, that's just work, that's just business, and I'm happy to talk about that. When it's about talking about fitness, to do a podcast, to do a YouTube channel, you have to you need a lot of creative energy. You need a lot of positive creative energy. It's quite hard to talk to the camera. It's quite hard to come up with concepts to talk about. And I was like, fitness is, a huge part of my life, and I couldn't cycle, I couldn't run, I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. So I wasn't in the mood to start filming. But we are back. We are back with a new setup. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see I've got a new lighting setup and a new kind of configuration. I did have an absolute nightmare setting this up today, but I think it's going to come out okay. So when I record this podcast, I record it for YouTube and for Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can see it on either. And with that, if you do, wherever you're watching this, can you please subscribe to the Spotify channel or the YouTube channel? It's easy just to swipe through, and then you'll still get a notification when I release something new. But please subscribe, because it does help the channel out loads. It does mean more people see it, and if you on YouTube, if you like it or comment, then more people will see it. It does wonders for the algorithm. Right, anyway, so that's a little bit of intro, and that's where I've been. I've been kind of working away, doing my thing, focusing on rehab, and now I wanted to get this podcast started before we went into 2022, just get a few episodes out and then start 2022 strong with the new structure. So let's talk about that structure. So I've changed the name to Change the Game, Start Again, and this is around the concept of that you can always hit the reset button. You know, you don't have to wait till Monday. You don't have to wait till the 1st of January. You don't have to wait till, I'll start next month. Sometimes you just need to, like a quick shakeout, hit the reset button, start again, and just have the mindset of starting fresh. And that's kind of the main message behind the podcast. So with that, you know, there's each week I'm going to try to give you a podcast based on having structure around certain aspects of your life. So that's with your training and programming, your cardio, your nutrition, and like your personal development. I'm going to kind of include one to two of those kind of themes each week, and with that I'll get special guests on that want to talk to me about nutrition. You know, love a bit of cardio and can give people advice, and hopefully this will be your go-to place to kind of get tips on training, nutrition, and lifestyle in general. And the whole point of this is just to help you change your approach to fitness and understand that if you're going through a bit of slump, hit the reset button, start again, get back on it. And that's kind of the message behind the podcast. So a little bit more on my rehab actually. So things are going good. The knee's healing well. So they just went, the surgeon, I had surgery on the 18th of November. Going private was an absolute dream. It was just so good. I literally had this hotel room for me. About 100 people come and said hello to me. There was so many staff dedicated to making sure my journey in there was great, and I was lucky enough to be the first in for surgery. So I got at 7 a.m. I went under at 8:30, and then I woke up at 10 and my leg was done. It was great. And then I saw the physio about 12 o'clock. They kind of helped me kind of walk around and walk up and down stairs because I didn't need crutches or anything. I could walk straight away, but not for long. I did have to sit down pretty quickly, but they showed me how to move around. And then I went back home, and then I did 10 days back at my mum and dad's, just kind of resting. It was kind of like leg up, dog on my side, laptop, and I just did some work. And I didn't leave my little dog for 10 days. He left me to do some fitness. He left me to go for like a 5k walk or something, and then he come back, but I just didn't move for 10 days. I think I was doing 100 steps a day at most. But yeah, I needed that, and I needed to recover well. And what the surgeon done, he went in behind my knee, smoothed off the shattered bone, the broken bits, took out the broken bits that was just floating around loose in my cartilage, gave it a wash through, and put me back together. And because it wasn't construction surgery, as in nothing got repaired, there wasn't any ligament damage or meniscus damage or anything that needed repairing. It was more, we need to smooth this bone out and take some things out that shouldn't be in there. The recovery's quite quick. So, you know, after 10 days I felt good enough to walk. Going downstairs took the longest because that's the start of like a pistol squat. You don't realise until you go to take a step, and I didn't even think about it. When I went to take a step, I was like nowhere near ready to do that yet. So that was the longest thing to come back, and that was the most annoying one when I started going to work on the tube and all the escalators are out and I had to do one step at a time. But oh well, I got through that, and yeah, the leg's feeling good. I've been swimming, so I've gone through 2 swimming sessions so far. I'm swimming again tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday. I'm filming this on a Sunday. I'm swimming Monday and Tuesday, and then I go see the physio at the specialist place. And the whole point of going there tomorrow is just to get signed off to start cycling, signed off to start doing some extra movement stuff, and then the recovery should be pretty quick. I'm really looking forward to getting back on the bike again, and from January I should start to be able to lift weights, and I should make some quite big progressions back to where I was throughout January and February, which is really exciting. I'm looking forward to getting back on Zwift. My bike's over there, so when I look over there, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so leg update's going good, and I'm so looking forward to getting back to lifting weights again. Right, so the final thing I wanted to really talk about today was my experience at Red Bull. So if you follow me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, you would have seen, if you don't follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, I got invited to go to Red Bull Racing HQ on Tuesday. I don't know how I got invited to it. It was just so lucky. So I teamed up with Therabody before. I knew the guys. Therabody make the Theraguns. I met somebody before at an event that worked for Therabody, and I got them a partnership set up with Gymbox, and I've been using the Theraguns for years. Ever since they come out, I've always had a Theragun. I've upgraded it a few times as the models changed, and yeah, I managed to get them a set up with Gymbox, and now they're partners. Therabody also are partners with Red Bull, and Red Bull just built a new performance facility. They've got a full Theragun stand there, and like the drivers use the Theragun, the the engineers use the Theragun in between, like, during the day, in between races and stuff. And yeah, they've got a new gym at their headquarters, and Therabody invited me down, so it was great. So it was just there's only about 10 of us. It was me, some people from Anytime Fitness, some like the head of product, and a couple other guys from there, a couple of people from Nutfield, a couple of people from some hospitality areas, and then the main director of Theragun in the UK. And it was great. It's just like we had a private lunch. You're seeing some of the pictures that I've got to see all the cars throughout the years, which was just amazing. I'm a big fan of F1. I was very much Team Max throughout that final race the following Sunday, so I was happy he won. I did feel a bit sorry for Lewis, but I felt Max had a better championship, and Max could have won probably a week before if a few more things went his way. I thought he was quite unlucky throughout some of the races throughout the season, and he should have really won earlier on in the season, like maybe 1 or 2 races to go, but because of some tyre blowouts and Lewis and the incident at Silverstone, if you're a Formula 1 fan, you got what I mean. I still think, even though Lewis deserved to win the final race, Max deserved to win the championship, so I was over the moon that he won. So then 2 days later I was able to go to Red Bull, see the cars in real life, which is just how big they are, pick up the tyres, how wide and thick the tyres are, and just I don't know, I was just incredibly lucky to see it all, see all the helmets throughout time, see what the steering wheel does, and like the steering wheel was just insane. What the drivers do at 200 mile an hour just blows your mind. And then once we had like a private lunch and a catch up, and then we went to the main factories, and they kind of got 8 big buildings. They're building a 9th one, and you got to see, and you weren't allowed cameras or phones in there. You got to see the process, what happens, and the work that goes into building a Formula 1 car. So the car travels in like a million different pieces, and it doesn't kind of get built, then you put it somewhere else. It doesn't go in a big ISO and go somewhere else. It goes in a million different pieces, and it's always start from scratch. And that's because every piece has to be immaculately inspected before it gets put together to go back on the car. Every piece, anything that's got paint on it has to go back to the factory and get repainted, because any like chip would affect the aerodynamics. So it has to go back, get completely repainted in this super smooth matte fucking coating, and it's great. It's incredibly good. It's incredibly impressive what they do. It's just an advancement in technology, and the amount of people that are working. It's like a 24-hour factory. There's constantly people working on the next car, working on the next piece. On the race weekends, they might call up and say, we need this button with this little wire attached to it, and then they'll just kind of make that and then send it out, and all these little pieces just get sent out during that race week, and there's just so many people working on the project. I found it quite interesting with the amount of 3D printing they do as well, because everything in Formula 1 is made out of carbon fibre, which is of course incredibly expensive to make. But they would make something like the steering wheel. Sergio Perez is another Red Bull driver. When he started, what they do in the new season, they make the steering wheel, they print it in 3D, and they give it to the driver, and the driver has to take it home, hold it, play with it, and just kind of get a feel and make sure everything's in the right place. Most drivers hold a steering wheel like this, and Sergio Perez apparently holds it at the bottom, and that's why he's so good at maintaining tyre life, because he's not aggressive on the tyres. So they had to keep 3D printing this steering wheel to find a structure that suits him, and once they do, then they make it in carbon fibre, put all the buttons on, and then he uses it, and it's like, it's a £60,000 steering wheel. The money in Formula 1's insane. A team like Red Bull have like a £400 million budget for 2 cars, and you realise how good the drivers are, and when you just see it from a couple of people driving, that's all you see it as, when you just 20 drivers on a Sunday. But when you look behind the scenes, you've got all these people working for 2 people to then show off their work. That's why they get paid so much, and they're just like literally the best people in the world, and just the pressure on their shoulders to perform on the day is insane. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and if I'm not gonna lie, I've had a bit of a buzz from it this week. I've had a bit of a, being in an environment that's been in that sort of high level environments, just good to be around. I was so lucky to get one of those tours. It wasn't like this big open day tour. It was literally just for about 10 people, and then we got to see their new gym. The new training facility was, of course, is immaculate. Well, the whole facility is immaculate. There's not one thing out of place, and that's just what Formula One is all about. Is just attention to detail. So yeah, it was. I've had quite a good week. I've had a really good week. I was very lucky to go on that, and yeah, here we go. Well, anyway, that's going to be it for this week's podcast because it's just me. When it's just me, there's the podcast will be quite snappy and to the point. When I've had other people on, it might be a bit longer, but yeah, that's it for this podcast. It's more just to kind of get the podcast up and running and tell you where it's going to go and where I've been. But thank you for listening. Like I say, like, subscribe, share it with your friends. And this is probably the only podcast I'm going to be able to release just before Christmas. So on that note, have a good Christmas. Hopefully, the day I'm releasing this, it looks like there's a form of lockdown or something coming our way. I really hope it's not, but I can't see it any other way. So if we go on that, I'll talk about it more in the next week podcast, but hopefully not. Hopefully everyone gets home for Christmas, stays COVID free, and yeah, I'll be back next week. So thank you very much for listening, and yeah, have a good Christmas, everyone. Bye bye.